Hey folks, BENTHELOONEY here. I'd like to apologize for something. Something I've been guilty of for a long time and never felt the need to admit it. I'm sorry for being a white man. Wait, why should I feel sorry for that again? Oh, that's right. 'Cause apparently, all white men are racist and sexist pigs who are so privileged that they fix society to be in their favor and hold down all the minorities and women in the world. Well, I didn't come here to be judged. Screw this. I'm watching cartoons.
I was gonna take me a rabbit.
Oh, come on! Being a fan of classic cartoons, I've been called out by a few of my peers on a couple of occasions. They would ask me what kind of cartoons I liked, and I would mention Looney Tunes, and they would ask, "You mean the racist kind?" Sometimes I would mention Tom and Jerry, and people would be like, "You mean the cartoons with that racist black lady in them?" I grew up with these cartoons as a kid, and it took me a while to realize that for some reason, I was supposed to feel white guilt towards them. There are several cartoons from back then that featured ethnic stereotypes that have rarely or never aired on TV. And with a new topic emerging of how easy people are to offend nowadays, I must ask, are classic cartoons racist? Of course, this is coming from the perspective of a redneck who grew up on these cartoons. I say, heck no. I'll get to why in a little bit, but first, let's talk about the definition of racism. The belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish as inferior or superior to other race or races. I think it's impossible for cartoons to be racist. Cartoons aren't capable of thoughts or emotions, so racist isn't the right term. I guess the better question is, are these cartoons offensive? Well, being offended is subjective, so that's up for debate. As an animator who sees these cartoons as art and finds them quite funny, I say no. However, that hasn't stopped people from trying to keep these cartoons as hidden as possible and make us feel guilty for their creation. Despite the fact that the people who made them have long since been dead and were actually pretty nice guys in real life, but I digress. In the 1960s, during the Civil Rights Movement, Warner Brothers decided, "Oh crap, guess we made cartoons that would make people angry. Better hide these from everybody and say, 'We're not racist, you're racist.'" These cartoons are referred to as the censored 11, as they haven't aired on TV since they were censored, per se. So now these rare cartoons have been sought out by fans and historians, claiming that these cartoons deserve to be shown because to take them away would be as if to say they never happened. And I agree with that. Let's be rational here, folks. What's worse? The fact that cartoons with offensive jokes against black people were made at a time when offensive jokes against black people were common, or pulling those cartoons from the air acting like the jokes against black people were never made. If you said the former, you're part of the problem. The only way I see these cartoons as being offensive is if you are a privileged and sheltered child who had no idea racism existed. Of course, another reason for keeping these cartoons locked away is because they could be impressionable on little kids, and they can grow up to be KKK members. While despite the censors' attempts to keep these cartoons hidden, some of them are in the public domain and ended up on cheap VHS tapes that you'd find in stores back in the day. I happened to have some of these tapes growing up, so I was more than familiar with these cartoons. Guess what? I didn't think anything of them. So, blacks were portrayed as having big pink lips and singing Camptown races. Well, here's a shocker to a lot of you. People are able to separate cartoons from reality. That's right, I knew that black people didn't have pink lips and sang Camptown races in real life. The same way I knew that rabbits and ducks couldn't talk. I thought it was just part of the humor. Granted, I learned much later down life about history. But not once did I watch any of these cartoons and say, "Well, I hate black people now." If that isn't enough for you, two cartoons of the Censor 11, Tin Pan Alley Cats, and Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs are highly respected and defended among fans and historians. Both of these were directed by Bob Clampett, And you want to know who gave them the idea for these cartoons? Black people! That's right. Clampett was a big fan of jazz music and hung out in clubs, making friends with a lot of black musicians, and they would ask him, hey, why don't they have any black cartoon characters? So, Bob decided to make cartoons that featured black characters. These cartoons weren't made out of hate, they were made out of love and respect for jazz music and black culture at the time. But no, since they featured blacks who had pink lips, that makes them racist. People being overly sensitive are preventing such great cartoons from getting the respect they deserve, and that's a dang shame. However, there were a bunch of cartoons made at the time also featuring some stereotypes of a certain group of people. World War II was going on at the time, so the Japanese got their fair share of ridicule. Okay, this one may be a little harder to defend as it's clear that these cartoons were made out of hate, but there was a war going on at the time, folks. It was the duty of these cartoons to boost morale and give Americans some hope that they were going to get through the war together. Not to mention that Pearl Harbor was the biggest attack on the US at the time, so it was very shocking to Americans then. Sure, Bugs Bunny blowing up a bunch of Japanese people with grenades covered in ice cream might cause some to turn their collars, but can we look past that? It's true the Japanese people were incredibly persecuted at the time, and it sucked, but those days are long gone. Is that the cartoon's fault? Of course not. But if it makes people feel any better, want to know another ethnic stereotype that was caricatured at the time? Germans! Why aren't a bunch of Germans getting their panties in a bunch over cartoons that portray them as Hitler saluting Nazis? Not every country has a history that's blood-free. We're all guilty of something, and we need these cartoons as reminders of what it was like back then. Otherwise, we're all doomed to repeat it. Moving on from Warner Brothers, one of the most famous examples of black stereotypes in cartoons is Mammy Two Shoes from Tom and Jerry. Okay, this is one I'll never understand. What is so racist about Mammy? Growing up, she didn't make me see black people in a demeaning way. She was just a lady who owns a cat. What's so offensive about that? I know, Mammy is a term that referred to black maids at the time, but aside from that, there is nothing, absolutely nothing about these cartoons that in any way shows that there was hate influence in this character. And here's the real kicker. Want to know who did her voice? Do you really want to know? I don't think you're going to like it. Alright, a black woman. Lillian Randolph to be exact. She was an actress at the time and she gladly voiced Mammy. She didn't seem offended. So why should a bunch of stuck-up white teenagers who hang out on Tumblr be offended by it? Alright, if you're offended by Mammy, what about her pisses you off so much? The fact she's a black woman? Well, your wish was granted in a way, because when the Tom and Jerry cartoons were aired on TV back in the day, they felt that Mammy was going to be offensive to black audiences. So you know what they did? They turned her into a white woman. Because that's what you want, right? To take away all the black people in media and replace them with white people? So, aside from that, I must ask again, what is so offensive about Mammy? Oh, she can't spell the word out properly? Is she stupid? Want to know some characters who were also portrayed as stupid? White people! Did people forget Elmer Fudd is one of the dumbest characters in entertainment history? He can't talk right, he's easily fooled, and he rarely wins in a cartoon. Should we as white people be offended because this guy doesn't represent us? They're just cartoons for Pete's sake. These were cartoons that were made for adults at the time, but they became a problem when they started showing these cartoons to kids. Then a bunch of censors were like, oh crap, there's some stuff in here that kids can't see. Yeah, you think? I mean, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to grow up with these cartoons as they inspired me to get into animation, but I don't think these cartoons should be dumbed down because adults are worried kids will be influenced by them. How about we stop treating kids like idiots and start talking to them like they have brain cells? Let's be parents for once and teach them that cartoons aren't real life and they're just there for entertainment, not to be copied. Being responsible parents? Wow, what a concept. So, with that being said about classic cartoons, why the hell do we act like we're so much better than that now? Do people think stereotypes only existed back then? If they do, they clearly haven't watched any form of media from the past 20 years. Once 9/11 happened, how many Muslim stereotypes did you see on TV? Let's all point at these people and laugh. They believe committing suicide gives you 72 virgins in the afterlife. Ha ha. Also, people seem to really like Jeff Dunham's Muslim character Ahmed the Dead Terrorist. Oh, what's that? He's not Muslim? Bullcrap. He prays to Allah. He's a Muslim. Need we forget how Muslims were portrayed on shows like South Park and in movies like Team America World Police? How is that crap considered funny, but Bugs Bunny cartoons where he blows up Japanese people is offensive? Oh, is it because we're currently in a conflict with the Middle East, so it makes sense to boost morale to the American people? No, alright. Well, at least we moved away from making fun of black people. Oh, wait a minute. No, we didn't. The earliest example I can think of from the modern era is Jar Jar Binks. I know, people address this, but it brings up a good point. Here you have an incompetent and clumsy alien who talks like a 19th century black slave and calls all the white guys master. This gets allowed, but a jazz-inspired Looney Tunes cartoon gets banned because it's racially insensitive? How about those two gangster robots from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen who talk with urban black lingo, faces are shaped like monkeys, and one even has a gold tooth? Are you freaking kidding me? This gets allowed and approved by studios, but Mammy Two Shoes is racist because she makes black people look bad? Not to mention, most of the black stereotypes I see in movies are directed by black people. How can any rational human being defend any of the content that you find in a Tyler Perry movie? Are these movies representing a whole group of people in a way you want them to be represented? What about all that crap you find on BET? I mean, isn't the idea of black people needing their own channel kind of insulting? What? Are black people only allowed to watch shows that star black people? Personally, I can care less than what the race of the actors are in the TV shows and movies I watch. Just as long as the TV show and movie is good, who cares what color the characters are? Folks, let's face it, we haven't come far. Racism and stereotypes still exist. We like to act like we made progress and we are better now than we used to be. But as long as humans are still around, we're always going to find ways to be pissed off at each other. Well, if these stereotypes aren't going anywhere, how about we just stop being offended by them? Why don't we start acknowledging that we're all flawed in our own ways and learn to just start laughing at each other's shortcomings? That's what comedy is all about. Laughing about the stuff in life that holds us down and we find annoying. Let's stop calling each other racist because we make jokes about a certain race. Having all this animosity towards each other is what's keeping all this racial tension alive. Yes, I get it. Slavery happened, and it sucked. Get over it! I know, black people are getting killed. Guess what? White people are getting killed too. We're all getting killed. We shouldn't be hating each other. We should be joining each other to laugh about how much life sucks. Life is very short, and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friends. Let's just start loving each other. What was this video about again? Oh yeah, cartoons. Quit censoring classic cartoons. They're products of their time. Nothing more, nothing less. They're not meant to offend. They're not turning kids into racists. They're just funny cartoons. Let's start treating them as such. That'll do it for this video. Any minorities watching this offended by stereotypes in classic cartoons? Anything from modern media offend you? Let me know in the comments below. Until next week, take it easy, fam.